Hello, Lena. Janet. Good morning. Hola, Maria. Okay. So today is the day. Hello, Catherine. Good morning. I understand because you're in Phoenix, right? Yeah.
Good morning. I'm in Diamond Mountain. Just finished my month's retreat.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
And happy to be here.
Yay.
Thank you for teaching.
I'm pleasure. I was just gonna tell you that now you know what I say all these things about the morning. It's like very and today's, I guess, in a way, special day because we are about to finish the run look section. I think if you grab the reading or the book, you know it's available in the Google Drive in case you want to review quickly. I don't know, it's about 40 40 pages maybe of the run look section or 30. Let me check real quick. You can do it in about, I don't know, depends how fast you read, but it's not really that long. But we have taken the time to go step by step in each one of the parts, and we are almost finished. But don't think this is the end of it because just after run look section, the third part of the debate system of learning comes up, which is first there is like a, how to call it, opponent or a person who says some wrong statement, and the debaters of the system that write the book defend the position. Then there is the run look section as step number 2, and in the step number 3 the opponent comes back with some more wrong ideas. So those are the 3 steps on the traditional process or system. But then after that, the book keeps going. And I don't know yet, to be honest, I don't know yet what new adventures are gonna come up after the third section. Um, and then that's just half of the first book. We have to go to the second half of the first book. So as you can see, it's an endless, no, it's not endless, but it's long. But while we move towards the book, we are already tasting some of the aspects that make Chi Chedrak so important for us to understand mental pictures and eventually be able to trigger this direct perception of dependent origination, and then later the direct perception of emptiness. We hope that's what the scripture says. I don't know, I'm like a tourist trying to get somewhere following a map in the car. So I'm just explaining you what I understand from the map without not having been there yet. But those who know say that that's the roadmap. Okay, so anyways, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here for the hopefully ending of the brand look section. Yay. Hello, Anna. I see you and I saw your friend, but I don't know who she is. But anyways, thank you for being here and welcome and congratulations, Catherine, for your month retreat. Thank you so much. Okay, let me start opening the materials. And I keep saying, but nobody has one to yet. If anybody wants to present yourself, because there are so many people that come, but I don't know what they do or anything. But anyways, we started this activity to introduce ourselves. And I think like 2 or 3 people did it and it was fun. Then no more people so far. Okay, I'm gonna share the screen with you. Okay, this is the run look section. Right now we are in verse 123, 123. And just so you know, okay, this is page 42. Let me see something. The run look section started here, our own position on verse 73, page 31. Oh, so you see it's not even that long. It's like 15 pages. You could read it probably, I don't know, 1 hour maybe. So 31, page 31, and then we went all the way to page 40, 43. It's like 12 pages. That's interesting. It's something you could read really quickly, but it has taken us a few sessions here. Okay. And super quick context. Let me see something. Okay. The Ranlook section pretty much started with the division of things into the whole Ranlook section started talking about physical form. And this context comes from the division of existent things. The Ranlook section didn't touch this idea of changing and unchanging yet, but it started from physical form, which is one of the divisions of changing things. Remember, we were talking about the division of existence, and one of the most basic divisions of existence is, or fundamental divisions of existence is changing and unchanging things. Inside the changing things, we have physical things, mental things, and things that are not physical and not mental. And the Ranlook section start right away dividing form, physical form, and saying that physical form and matter are synonyms. And then from there start giving us all the categories or many categories of the different categories of physical form. Then we went through outer form, inner form, and the text went very deep into outer form and all the different, I don't want to say all the different forms of outer form. I don't want to say that. I want to say something more like all the different categories of um, outer form, their divisions, that. In a moment, I'll show you a flow chart to make that visual. But after a long time, going deeper and deeper and deeper, we finally reach the end, the last category that the book talks about. Outer form is the door of sense of touch. And it gives us its definition, its divisions or other groups inside the big groups, subgroups. And then we are finally gonna start with inner form. So just for context, we did this last time as well, but now last time it was just like a quick mention. This time you're just gonna go thoroughly and finish with it. What I was saying is, as context, why don't we do this very last, it's just a few paragraphs, this last section on outer form. And then when we move into the inner form, we will feel more like, okay, we know what's going on. And remember, if some people want to mention, oh, I'm reading the chat now. Translators can't present themselves. Well, we'll figure it out. It will be great to have you, Ola, presenting yourself. There is another Ukrainian, I think it's Maria. You can something switch if you want to present for a few minutes. And then Catherine was asking, where can we find it? Maybe you mean the reading. We have a Telegram chat group, and there is a link to the Google Drive, but I can post it again so you can access it there in the Telegram or WhatsApp chat groups. And then there is a folder with the reading. It's pretty much the first section of the book, just there available. Okay, let's go now. Yeah, if you have questions, you can raise the hand or commentary, something you want to say. Okay, so there is a definition of the door of sense of touch because that object which is experienced by the consciousness of the body is this definition. Okay, so now remember, we are talking about outer objects, and those outer objects play and interact with the consciousness of the body. In this sense, is that the body meaning like sensation, I guess. And that's the definition of the door of sense of touch. So what I get here is like, right now, remember, we're talking about outer form. The definition of outer form is the form that it's there, but that doesn't possess awareness. So for example, like I don't know, the wall or the chair, my consciousness, my awareness is not attached to that object. Easy example is like, if, I don't know, if somebody hits the wall, I'm not gonna feel pain. It's just an easy example. Inner form, we will see in a moment, is form that it's attached to a consciousness. Like, I don't know, my hand, if something happened to my hand, like my consciousness is super linked to it. And apparently the objects, which is interesting because remember, we're in school number 2, kind of implies that there are things out there by themselves. Now, remember, this is tricky because it's not that the school number 2 supports the idea that things are self-existent. And this is when it gets a little tricky. Because even school number 2, they agree that things depend on other things to exist. So if things depends on other things to exist or to be, let's put it that way, that means that they are not independent because they depend, they are not independent. Now, the difference between between the schools in some way can be explained as the thing that they say things depend on in order to exist is different. Just a quick example, this is not very technical, but as a general example, for example, some schools are going to say things depend on their causes and conditions. And then the next school is going to say, okay, yes, I agree with you. But remember, things also depend on their parts. Okay, next school will say, okay, yes, things depend, causes and conditions, things depends on their parts, but also things depend on the labels we put on them, we project into them. Okay, so you see the different schools start building up, adding elements on what the things, what things depend on in order to exist. So now when we go to school number 2, the school we are reviewing right now, is not to say that they will claim like, yeah, things are self-existent. It's not necessarily that, because they do, at least for sure, they believe things depend on causes and conditions. But it really seems that it's the case that they do support this idea of atoms, of some source of self-existence, like the smallest particle of matter that is there, and it cannot be divided, and it cannot be changed or manipulated, and so it's like a weird mix of both things. On one hand, they will agree that things depend on things, but in another way, they will kind of support the idea there is some fundamental aspect of reality. There is some fundamental aspect of reality that it's intrinsic or something like that. And now just remember, this is one of the most important differences between school number 2 and school number 4, that what they believe is ultimate existence. School number 2, they say kind of what the thing that it's ultimate and supreme is the most fundamental form of matter, for example, that objects possess. Basically saying like atoms. And that's why for them, the ultimate form of existence is the Rangsen, the manifestation of the mental pictures, the chitsens, that, or archetypes, maybe we can say. Now, the real thing, the ultimate thing is the actual object. But then Madhyamika actually says the totally opposite. They say, no, that's not at all the ultimate. The ultimate form of existence is the absence of anything that you are claiming to be the ultimate, actually. So basically, the lack of fundamental self, fundamental self and fundamental self-existence, which pretty much could be the same. That's what Madhyamika, and especially Madhyamika Prasangika, says it's the ultimate form of existence, which is, I guess, is basically to say emptiness is the ultimate aspect of reality. Now, remember, there's two sides of the coin. Of course, is this dependent origination and emptiness. But usually when we say ultimate in Madhyamika Prasangika, it means the emptiness side of things. And in school number 2, ultimate will be more like the actual object side of things. Just context, because when you read this text, it's important that you know very well where are we at, what school is the one defending these positions, and also to note that many of the ideas that lower schools propose are accepted by higher schools too. Our task or mission as students, if we want to really understand this, one of these missions will be learning which ones are the ideas that they don't agree. And of course, if we can divide which ones, yes, are agree and are shared, and which ones are not, that'll be super helpful. But just to know that many are accepted, I guess that's the reason why, one of the reasons really, why studying the lower schools helps us as well, because some of those ideas we're going to be able to take with us all the way up, but some not. And even understanding as well which ones not help us to avoid mistakes. Okay. And probably some of you are like, okay, stop talking, read the text. Thank you so much for your patience. Okay, let's do it. So I was telling you the definition of sense of touch. The door of sense of touch, it's the object which is experienced by the consciousness of the body. It's almost to say that the objects that trigger or play or interact with the consciousness of the body are the door of sense of touch. To me, it was helpful to understand this idea of the door. It's kind of the entry point, a door where I can access that experience. So let's say my cell phone, if I can grab it and hold it in my hand and I can feel this as a physical matter, it's serving as a door for me to access, enter the consciousness of the touch or body. In this case, they say touch, consciousness of the body. It means the sense of touch. Now, touchable things may be divided into two. Touchable things which are elements and touchable things which are products of the elements. We talked about it also like 2 sessions ago. It was cool about the 4 elements, what they actually represent. And the 4 are water, fire, and wind. Oh, sorry, earth, water, fire, and wind. To me, it has been interesting always to know that the traditional arrangement is from more gross to subtle, like earth being very tangible, water a little less, fire, wind. Now, this may be relevant, and this is one of the things I tell you, Geshe keeps encouraging us to do, to wonder why, just in general, like little kids maybe, that keep asking why and why. Because this later becomes super relevant, why the order is taught like that, why they decided to arrange them from gross to subtle. And then when we start going into these super deep meditations, for example, of the death process or the dissolution of the elements, these are practices that yogis do or practitioners do, yoginis, once they enter the secret advanced teachings. There are these meditations that start manipulating the subtle body that transform you very, very deeply. And Geshe has taught some of these meditations when he taught the lamb rim, for example, into the death process. I think these days also probably Ellie and Gail, our dear friends, Jigme and Gielse, they are teaching courses on how to prepare for death. And this process becomes very relevant there because in these meditations, we start learning how to manipulate and go through the elements in our, I would say, body. And maybe, I don't know if that will be correct to say in our mind as well. I don't know about that. Don't quote me on that, but we learn these meditations when we start making the dissolutions of these elements. These meditations simulate the natural process that happens when we die, but the idea is that we learn to do it consciously and awake and live. And if we learn to do it, then possibilities are endless. But the natural process of the dissolution of elements, it goes like that as well. First, the earth dissolves, then the water, then the fire, then the wind. So it could be the case that many things that we are learning have deeper reasons why we learn them, for example, in this particular order. And maybe some of them we don't even know yet. For many years, when I was starting going to the land rims, I always hear the advanced students, like students who had many years going. And there was a very common thing to hear. Probably some of you had the same experience, that they will say things like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Geshe Michael is teaching so much Diamond Way in class. And me and some of the people who were new, we were like, well, I don't know, I guess if you say so. But sometimes Geshe is teaching a lot of advanced things in order to prepare us for later practices, and we don't even realize yet. I hear it's the same, for example, with the Lion's Dance meditation. If some of you have done it, that's already, just so you know, a skillful way of our super great teacher, Geshe Michael, to prepare us for later, much more advanced practices. Okay, back to the text. Yeah, the 4 elements, right? Let me show you the flow chart. Flow chart. Okay. So here you can see the door of sense of touch. Here's the definition. We talked about it. Basically, I would say is the object that triggers the consciousness of the body. In this case, trigger is not the most appropriate thing. They use the word is detected by the consciousness of the body, but it's a way for me to, it helps me to understand it. Now, it has 2 divisions: touchable things, which are elements, and the ones that are products of the elements. We talked about earth, water, fire, wind, and their definitions that come later on the text: hard and rigid, wet and flowing, hot and burning, light and moving. Now, then we move on to 7 kind of things or sensations that come, in a way, they come from the presence of these elements on things. For example, I don't know, let's say something like, if an object has a lot of earth on it, it's going to produce on us the experience of heaviness, for example, maybe. Or if a object has a lot of fire on it, it's going to produce the sensation of, well, lack of coldness. Now, to be honest, this is something that I've been thinking that I don't fully understand, because in one hand, these sensations are products of the elements, you see? But in the other hand, the elements themselves are things that we could experience. They are experience that we access with our sense of touch. So in a way, it makes sense to me to say, when we interact with an object and we touch it or grab it, even let's say with our hand, as far as I understand, we will be able to say, oh yeah, okay, I can tell this object has more earth than water. If we understand what qualities those elements represent, then we can say, for example, you can see this piece of paper. I hope so. You see, it's a light and moving, yes, but still it has some degree of hard and rigid, more than thin air. And wet and flowing, yeah, you can kind of tell when you touch that okay, maybe I can see this is not super, super dry. It does has some kind of moisture, and it has some temperature. It's kind of warm to the touch. So I can kind of tell the degree of each one of these elements present in this piece of paper. Same example, if I grab my phone instead, oh yeah, this is much more hard and rigid. So this object must have more earth element than this paper. Sorry that you cannot see the paper very well, but it's clean, I promise, so far. And like that. Which one has more fire? Well, this one, the paper has more fire. I can tell because it's warmer. This is a little bit cold kind of thing. Which one has more wind? I will say this because it's much more light. It's not so dense. This is heavier. What about water? I will say the same, probably this because it feels more wet and flowing. So, and this is has more earth. Now, that's the thing, but what when we move to the products of the elements? Smooth and roughness, heaviness and lightness, coldness and thirst, and hunger. Supposedly these seven kind of things come about as products of the elements. For me, maybe further investigation needs to be done here because I want to have this even more clear. And this is going to be relevant a little bit later once we move to the third section, because even the very first debate, the refutation of ideas, starts using this idea of the quality of lightness. In this case, it's not light as a what's a synonym for light? As luminosity. We are not talking about that. And for some reason, the text makes emphasis on that. The text itself tells us like right now we are talking about the the weight, light in the sense of something not to be heavy. We are not talking light in the sense of luminosity. I guess it's just an English situation synonym. But you will see later why it's important to understand what will be the difference between feeling wind, and again, not wind in the sense of the effect of air moving, but wind in the sense of the properties of light and moving, versus lightness in the group of products of the elements. Okay, step by step, we're getting there. I'll go back to the reading. Let me check the chat. Okay, hola. Okay, please slowly. Okay. Okay, one moment. I need 1 minute. I'll be back. You can all breathe. It's just the air conditioning is getting crazy. Okay. Thank you so much. Now, okay. Super quickly. Okay, you can see here the definition of earth, hard and rigid, the definition of water, wet and flowing, the definition of fire, hot and burning, the definition of wind, light. Oh yeah, this is what I was talking about. Okay, just as a little dessert kind of idea. I like these things. You see that some schools define the object because of the function it performs. For example, yesterday I hear a very good example. Even the name of things, for example, the oh, okay, yeah, check this out. You know, there is some tools when you're like fixing, I don't know, or building something. There are some tools. There is a there is something in construction. There's like a nail or like a screw. You know that you screw into the wood, for example. I hope you know what I'm talking about. So for example, the tool that you use to screw the thing, it's called screwdriver. It's just an example, but even the name of the object is telling you what's the function of it. And I find it very interesting how in many languages we do that. What it does becomes the name of it. Another example could be like you can call something, you see the oven, for example. We talked about the oven that heats up things, and some people call this object the burner because it burns things, for example. But it's like there are ways to refer to things depending of the function they do. If you have some other example in mind, you can put it in the chat or share it. But the reason I mentioned this is because eventually this is going to be relevant also to understand mental pictures. And then check this out. Hot and burning is the definition of fire. And then the definition of water is wet and flowing. I remember once Geshe was explaining about these topics. And then after this class, I was really concerned. So I came to Geshe and I asked him, Geshe, okay, but if you define water, I say, if you define water as wet and flowy, and in order for an object to be water, to be considered water, it has to possess these qualities. Then I say, then it's impossible for somebody to do something as walking on water. Because even if they could walk into water, by the time they are walking into water, the water or that thing where they are walking on doesn't possess the elements of wet and flowy. So at least for that person, it doesn't function in that way. So how could we say that they are walking into water if the water is not working as water should work? If water is not following the rules of the definition of water, then they are not walking in water. And then he just looked at me, he smiled, and then he said, that's correct. And that was it. And now later, time passed, and we learn more things. And now I have a theory. What I think he was doing is like, probably he realized that I learned something. And it was okay for me to have learned that. And it was okay for me to keep processing that and to keep chewing on it. So as far as I understand, he told me that's okay, kind of respecting the position of the class of the second school. Because then later I learned how that could be actually the case if we move into the fourth school. In the fourth school, yes, now I understand why it will be possible to walk into water and how water, or for example, how we could touch fire and for it not to be hot and burning. I guess this is one of the reasons why they say in order to do higher practices and diamond way practices, traditionally they say that you need the fourth level of understanding of emptiness. You need to have a fourth school level of understanding of how things are and how things are not. Even into if we put it together with this idea of kind of creating miracles in our life. Well, lately also we hear that even Geshe supports the idea, and Tsongkhapa, yet Tsongkhapa as well, that if you have a very good understanding of emptiness on the third school, mind only, you could also practice Diamond Way successfully. But I mean, it's kind of the, I will say or argue that it's kind of the minimum necessary. Of course, if you have four, much better. Because anyways, the goal, one of the goals of Diamond Way practices is to take us to see emptiness directly. And they say once we do that, we move automatically, we will have to move to school number 4. It's like once you see how it really works, you understand how it works. And what school number 4 says is like, and then you will agree with us because we know how it works. Okay. So just think about this idea on how school number 2 gives so much emphasis into objects are what they, the function of the object defines what they are, kind of thing. Their qualities, what they do, which in a way is interesting to connect it with. They are changing objects. When we divide existence into changing and unchanging, the changing objects are always, it's a synonym, changing and working objects. Objects that do something, produce something, or have a function. Excuse my English, a little rusty this morning, but okay, so it's like same thing. You know, if I grab the fire and it burns me, yes, it's fire. But if I grab a fire and it doesn't burn me, then it's not fire. That's supposedly what school number 2 is kind of saying. All right, and then touchable things which are products of the elements are 7. I show you the map, the flow chart already. Smoothness and roughness, heaviness and lightness, coldness and thirst, and hunger. And my question is, what's the difference between the lightness as a product of the element and the light as in the definition of one of the elements? That's one of my questions. And finally, we reach the inner form. That was the end of the outer form. Now the text, it says, there is a definition of inner form because form which is subsumed by the awareness of a being is that definition. Yay. So let me show you the flow chart. Can you see the PowerPoint? Yes, okay. So this was it. Dun, dun, dun. And then, okay, this is the general review of what we finished so far in the run look section. We started from form being synonym of matter. We went to outer form, with its definition, not directly covered by our awareness, with the 5 divisions of it, Remember, first, when we are talking about outer form, we are talking about doors. It's a easy way to remember. Outer form means doors of things, objects that serve as entry points. So you see that's why all of them have the word door including into the division. Door of sense of visible form, door of sense of sound, and so on. But they are doors of. Then we study the first door of visible form, which is the object that triggers the consciousness of the eye, divided into shapes, colors divided into primary, secondary, some examples and different permutations, some combinations that we can do with them. And everything is in the recordings and also in the reading, also in the PPT. So if you want to review any of these topics, you can at your pace. And then we keep going, but then we cover everything. We just finished this door of sense of tangibles. We went deeper into each one of them with categories. We finish. So we finish the whole outer form. Now what is next? Inner form. But don't worry, because inner form is really super short in the book. We are, let me see. We are super close to finish. I was hoping to see what time is it, to see how long it takes us. But okay, let's go for it. Inner form.
Oh, and I'm sorry, could you please make me a translator? We are switching. Thank you so much. Excuse me.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Mm. Okay. Okay, now we were form, matter, outer form, inner form. Let's explore inner form. That form that is subsumed by awareness of a being. And then check it out. Inner form, again, is going to be divided into 5 kinds. The sense of sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. But notice, very important, that this time we are not talking about doors. We are talking about the sense itself, which I was also, in a moment, you will see why. I was having a hard time understanding because of the divisions of it. You will see in a moment. Okay, so let's start with the first, the sense of sight. Yeah. And now the question I have is if anybody later finds out about this, if sense of sight and sense of visible form will be synonyms. And I don't know. I didn't read this anywhere. It was my personal question. If it will be correct to call the sense of sight, sense of visible form. Because in a way, visible form is not a sense, it's an object, but the sense that interacts with visible form, I guess, is the sense of sight. Could it be appropriate to call it sense of visible form? Because later that will have implications, I guess, as well. Okay. So now we have, I think this is very important to clarify this difference between what inner form covers and what outer form covers. Check it out. Okay. These are kind of the divisions. In the inner form, again, we will have the senses of each one of the 5. And in the outer form, we will have the door sense. you add the word the door. And somebody was asking me, I think the other day, why many times we talked about the six senses, including mind. And here we are only covering five of them because, you know, the mind is the one that, or this awareness that, for example, gets conscious about thoughts, for example. And this idea is that just to remember that right now we are talking about form, and form, mind is not considered as part of the category of form. You know how they say mind is, what's this word in English? Ineffable. That doesn't have a shape or a particular shape. It doesn't have a location. It doesn't has a, basically it's not form. Okay, so just so you appreciate this difference, and it helps to clarify what each one of the kinds of form cover, outer and inner objects. Okay, now let's check the sense of this, the sense of sight. The definition: that inner form which is clear and which is established as what it is by serving as a unique trigger subsumed within a person for the consciousness of the eye which results from it. All right. I guess it's kind of technical, but check. Let's, how Geshe says, divide and conquer. Okay, this inner form, the inner form of the sense of sight, number one is clear. It has to be clear. I'm thinking this clear is the same clear as in the definition of mind, which is clarity and cognition. In this clear that it's accessible for our mind, apprehensible, and yeah, we can apprehend it successfully. I don't know, it's difficult to explain for me what clear, what the quality of clear will mean when we are talking about perceptions. But just trying, I think, starts building a mental picture of what would it mean for a sense to be clear, to be perceived and apprehend clearly, unmistakably maybe, or something. Okay, so number one, it has to be clear, and number two is established as what it is, similar to this idea we just talked. The object we try to define sometimes is defined by the function it performs. So it's established as what it is by serving as the unique trigger. You see now, I think they are doing the same. They are defining the sense of sight by the function it performs. Now, can you see how they say here? They say the sense of sight is the trigger of the consciousness of the eye. Just a few minutes ago, I was kind of saying that the door of the sense of sight, meaning the outer object we see, for example, was the trigger. But now here they say otherwise. They say that the trigger is actually the sense of sight. Now, what I have here in some other explanations is that kind of the trigger happens simultaneously, that subject and object kind of trigger each other. Have you heard that? And even I think it's when Geshe gives this image of three sticks piling up together like this, holding each other. And he has explained how subject and object kind of hold each other, and in a way they are dependent from each other. But to be honest, further investigation on my side needs to be established. I'm here just sharing ideas. So if you feel interested in some or you have questions, you know where to start, in what direction to look for, maybe. But okay, in this case, okay, they say the actual inner sense of sight, it's almost, I will argue, I will say that it's almost to talked about the power of the sight power. Do you remember how we were dividing existence into either the 5 hips, the 12 ayatanas, and the 18 datus? So when we talked about the 12 and the 18, they start talking about the power sense of something, the power sense of taste, the power sense of smell. I think here this is what we're talking about, the power of that sense, kind of the physical form that has the ability to produce this experience or this function. Now, I mean, I hope it's not being so confusing, but even for me, it's a little bit confusing. So I'm just trying my best. It may take time. We can keep chewing on it. And in a moment, more will be explained. Let's go. This is the inner form with its definition, the sense of sight. Boop. Oh yeah, we talked about it already. Now, different ways of synonyms. And this kind of I show you, so I give you maybe ideas on how to work with these topics. When you yourself find, when you find yourselves in front of difficult, maybe technical topics, I recommend making your own notes and asking yourself or making notes of your own questions or even the ideas that you're having right now. Then later it will help you as support to tear apart in a very detailed way the topic, and then it helps me to sometimes understand much better if I can start tearing it apart little by little. So what I wrote here in orange is kind of the things that they were coming to my mind, and I was making notes. Okay, sight, sense of sight, and category of sight is synonyms. Okay, just remember that. My question, the sense of sight could be referred as sense of visible form. Will that be appropriate? Is it okay? No, why, etc. It's like study techniques you can use. Okay, now the sense of sight, the text says, is divided into 2 things. The sense of sight that is supported by something else, and the sense of sight which shares a support. And that's where I was like, oh my God, now I'm even more confused what they're talking about. Now we have the definition here, as you can see. We did it already. And now, what's the definition of the sense of sight that is supported by something else? Is the sense of sight which is looking at things such as white or blue. So apparently what I got from it is that the sense of sight, no, the division of the sense of sight that is supported by something else is the sense of sight that depends of an outer object to function. Again, similar to what I was saying before, kind of both the sense itself and the object that it interacts with, both kind of trigger the experience, the consciousness of sight, which is very interesting because we haven't been there yet. But now that's exactly what the division of the 18 datus explain, and it's pretty much the difference between the 12 ayatanas and the 18 datus. You see, like some people ask why, and I was asking that not too long ago. Why one of the division is 12 and the other one is 18? What's the difference? And pretty much the difference is that when we divide into 18 datus, what they do is that they add the consciousness that gets triggered when the object and the power get combined. So in the division of 12 datus, no, 12 ayatanas, we have one power for each one of the senses, like the power of the eye, the power of the ear, the nose, and like that, one power, and one outer object, kind of to say the object of the eye, or maybe we can say the door of the door of the what we're saying, the door of I got the door of the sense of, yeah, the door of the sense of sight, the door of the sense of hearing. In the division of 12, we have the power and the object. But when we move on into the division of 18, is the power, the object, and the consciousness that they trigger. And I have a feeling that this division right here, right now, is helping us to understand that triggering of the consciousness. And look at that. We even have it in the definition. It serves as the trigger subsumed within a person that a person has for the consciousness of the I, which results from it. I almost will argue that this is already taking us to the division of 18 datus, which is interesting to me. Finally, I'm starting to understand all this thing about the 5 hips, the 12 ayatanas, and the 18 datus. I had this question when we started these sessions, and now it seems more clear, although I know there is more to learn. Okay, so anyways, this division depends of an object in order to produce its function, an outer object, let's put it that way. But now, in the other hand, we have the sense of sight, which shares a support. And when I read this, I was like, what is this talking about? Now, what is talking about that it shares a support? And then the reading says this. I'll show you the reading in a moment, but I copy the footnote. It says, the sense of sight which shares a support is, in this case, this sense of sight is not resting upon the outer object which it perceives, such as, for example, the blueness of a bowl on the table in front of us. Rather, is relying upon the mind's imagination of blue in a dream, for example, and sharing this support. So I don't understand very well what sharing support means. That particular way of expressing the idea, I don't know why they say that. But luckily, I'm gonna show you the reading. But luckily, just so you know, all these that we are doing here, like going step by step through the text, Geshe already did. I think he may have done it much faster, not so slowly like I am here or we are here. But if we have questions, we can go back to the YouTube channel and we can watch exactly when Geshe taught that, and we can see what he said about it. And I think that's my idea on how to solve this mystery. For next week, I'm gonna have to go to the YouTube channel, find the playlists that are there, find Adam's first book, find where was the class when Geshe taught that, and just learn and maybe make notes. I think it will be so great if, and there was actually a project about it. If you are interested in this project, you can talk to Nick or Ben. There was a project where the idea is like to make a electronic version of the book, the ebook, to every paragraph, attach it with a link to the video. So if you want to watch when Geshe taught about that particular verse, you just click and it sends you to the video. It's just an idea yet, it's not developed, but I think it's a great idea. If any of you later is interested and have the time, maybe you could work on that. I was actually working a little bit on that on Utpala's book. I was making notes of each paragraph, what minute, what video, what everything, when it was explained. And then the project paused, just so you know. We'll have to do that because I really want to understand what's the meaning of shared, what? Shared basis or? Okay, let me go to the reading. Okay, by now we are here. Okay, yes. There is a division of inner form into 5. We did that. The sides of each one of them, boom. Then there is a definition of the sense of sight because we already reviewed that. The object being defined by the function it performs. Here, boom. Now, sight, sense of sight, and category of sight are all synonymous. Even myself now, like, okay, now that makes sense why I was thinking about those questions. It's in the reading. Okay, great. The sense of sight can be divided into 2 types: the one that shares support, the one that is supported in something else. Okay. Share supports with what? With its power itself? I don't know. I'll try to figure that out. The one that shares support, no, the one that is supporting something else is kind of understandable to me because it's supported by the object out there. Out there, we're talking second school. Although, interestingly, just as another grain of salt, school number 4, Madhyamika Prasangika, also accepts outer objects. And it's so interesting to hear that only the most fundamental school and the higher school accept outer objects, but they both explain them in a different way. And all the schools in between, they don't accept outer objects. There are examples of sense of sight which is supported by something else. 4, the sense of sight looking at things as white or blue is an example. Okay, we did that. There is an example of sense of sight which shares a support. The sense of sight as we sleep is the example. And this is the footnote that I just shared with you. It talks about the blue of a ball in a dream. Because yeah, in a way we can agree the blue that we see in a dream doesn't depend of an actual object made of atoms. That's also very interesting and it has a lot of implications. That our senses can actually function without an object made of matter to trigger them. Yeah, and I think personally, I think there is a lot we can learn from dreams. And these days, Geshe is starting to open up this more and more, the practice of lucid dreaming. And I know lucid dreaming is a very powerful tool for helping us to understand and have deeper insights on emptiness as well. Probably, I don't know, you can tell how real some dreams can be and how much our senses get activated when we dream. Like we can touch something, we can hear things, we can see things, we can feel emotions. It's very interesting how much a reality, let's say, can be built upon inside the dream. Even this idea that even sometimes, even if you realize that you're dreaming, you can still interact with people or people inside the dream, and still not because you are producing them in your dream, it means that you let's say you know what they're gonna do or what they're gonna say or something like that. To me, it's very fascinating how sometimes you can learn something in a dream, something that you didn't know, but at the same time, the dream is coming from what's in your mind. So how does that really work? I don't know. I don't know if you could argue that that's something that you kind of knew, but you didn't know that you knew, or actually it's new information that could be ripening ultimately because of seeds, of course, but to say it could be ripening out of new ways of information being put together inside the dream. Anyways, exploring these topics of how dreams work and how much of a reality can create is really interesting. And Madhyamika Prasangika, they say that dreams and awakened state of mind are the same in the sense that they are both coming out of dreams, sorry, of seeds. They are both coming out of seeds. So it's almost like that. If you have the seeds to learn something new inside a dream and that seed opens, you're gonna have the experience of learning something new inside a dream. You can also have the seed of some learning something new in a waking state when it's open. So it opens so much the possibilities of what being real means. And again, Ben Kramer doesn't like to use the word real, but I hear Geshe Michael. I was having this question, and then I hear Geshe Michael using it this way, and then I feel at peace. Sometimes we can use the word real as to explain something that exists, that the real way things exist is by emptiness and dependent origination. Just not to be confused that when we use the word real, we mean self-existent. We just have to have this distinction. And if we understand it, I think we're safe. We can sometimes use it. Just not to be confused, it means self-existent. But anyways, we are here starting to explore ideas on how reality can work in dreams. Beautiful. There is a definition of the sense. Oh, okay. So yeah, pretty much now we can basically say we finished by now because all the other senses pretty much share the exact same definition and share the exact same two divisions. Let's just do hearing to prove that that's true. The definition of the sense of hearing is that inner form which is clear and which is established at what it is by serving as the unique trigger subsumed with a person for the consciousness of the ear which results from it. Yay. And the sense of hearing again can be divided into two types. Sense of hearing which is supported by something else, sense of hearing which shares a support. And you can see the rest is the same, but now it's the sense of smell. Same definition, just is a different consciousness, the one that gets triggered. And same divisions, supported and shared. The definition of the sense of taste, again, is the same. The divisions of the sense of taste, again, are the same. And finally, the sense of touch, again. And the sense of touch can be divided into types, which are the same two categories. And guess what? That was it. We finished the Ranlook section of the first part of the book, because my feeling is that then later there are going to be more Ranlook sections, but we'll have to see. Okay, so yay, we finished with the Ranlook section. This is amazing. It's only really like, what did we say? Like about 12, 15 pages. You can do it again, but it's gonna be cool because I bet if we have spent some time with this so slowly, once we read it quickly, it's gonna be super, how say, easy to digest. Now, the third question is this: resolving final questions on the topic of red and white. And there are very interesting debates that come here, along with the first part of the debates that we didn't even finish. I think it will be worth it to check them out. But before we move into there, I just want you to see finally. Wait. Hey, yay. Hi. Thank you for the celebration. And the classes, yeah, they are gonna keep going. I was thinking maybe you guys also need a break. I don't know. We can maybe have a December break while the Kyoto teachings or something like that. I think it's always nice to, we all together go and be part of the bigger events. So I kind of support this idea of pausing when big events are around. I'll keep you posted. Yesterday we had the Thanksgiving Day here in the United States. So it's like a big holiday here. It's funny because in Mexico we don't do that much. Some people don't even know like that it's happening, but here in the United States, like a big, big, big thing. And I guess it's kind of in a way the beginning of the holiday seasons, and people start taking it easy, visit family, slow down, which is nice too. It's a nice time to regather and plan and stuff like that, get organized. Let me finally show you this thing where we were, just so you don't say you didn't see the flow chart. We just were here, so you have it visualized, and then pretty much is the same. I was telling you the definition of each one of them is pretty much the same. It's just what changes is the consciousness that it triggers. You see, here is the eye, here is the ear, here is the nose, the tongue, and the body. These are the 5 divisions of inner form. And yeah, same divisions. Supported by something else and something that shares a support. Okay, and I don't know why this stays there. Okay. Oh, okay, I see what happened. Okay. All right. Now, does anybody has questions or suggestions for what would you like to see happening next? It says January 2nd, I'll be in Ajijic. Oh, that's awesome. That's a really beautiful place, Ajijic. When I was a kid, that's a very big lake in Mexico. Janet was saying that she's gonna go to a retreat with teacher Sarani. It's very close to Guadalajara. And when I was a kid, my family and I used to go there very often. It's beautiful, beautiful lake. It's the biggest lake in Mexico. There's a big United States and Canada community living there. So in a way, because of that, they have enhanced this little town a lot. So you see a lot of beautiful boutiques and shops and restaurants and coffee shops. It's really beautiful place to visit. I hope you have a great time. 5-day silent retreat, January 2nd. Oh yeah, so I was saying, if you have suggestions or ideas, what would you like seeing happening for the next sessions? Super welcome. What I was thinking is to really go back a little bit to the first debates, because I want to do this test. My theory is to say that now when we go to the debates again, it's going to be very different. We're going to be much more contextualized. So it's going to be like more accessible. I want to do that for one. That's my idea proposal, even before we move into the number 3 section. Although we could be doing it kind of simultaneously. We could be checking like one of the old debates, one of the new debates, and kind of the old debate number 2, new debate number 2, and like that. And also the other thing that I want to do is to give myself time, and I invite you if you want to do the same, to now check what was the explanation of the Ranluk section when Geshe taught it, and see what new things we can take out of it and keep straightening our understanding of the belief system school number 2. Along with that, Adam is gonna keep going with the presentation of different topics and what he's studying lately with his new book. And little by little, we'll build up into the Chichedra aspect, which is part of book number one. That's my idea. But if you guys want to hear about something or out, I have another idea to keep inviting new people, like special, how to call them, presentators or panelists. So they present themselves on Pramana topics. I want to have Ben Kramer here sometime, really. I'll try. I have had very cool conversations with him. These days, he's also doing a Pramana book. I would like to have Nick. And if you have people that you would like to have here, you can also propose and we can invite them. I don't know. For example, Janet, if you all of a sudden say, oh, I would like to invite teacher Sarani, and if she agrees, we can have her. Or if somebody of you have your own teachers that you're having classes with, you can invite them. We can open a space for them time to time. And yeah, the idea for me is to keep building this as a community. Even you yourselves, if sometimes you want to present a topic, you save a spot, we give you 10-15 minutes and you can do your own presentation. Sometimes the presentation can be about the questions you have, and that's great. I really believe sometimes just having the right question is the beginning of the path to knowledge. So
Lama,
just understanding what we don't know and having the question of what we don't know, it's already opening up.
Lama Sarani is very higher middle way school. She would
Uh-huh.
never hurt anybody. She doesn't eat food that would hurt creatures. I am very second school. I
Uh-huh.
I think things are coming from their own side, and
Uh-huh.
I'll stand up for myself and I'll punch somebody.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it's a very different approach when you
Uh-huh.
feel like a lot of rage and a lot of bad behavior to
Uh-huh.
say it's coming from you and there's something that needs to change from yourself. And I have really failed to take Lama Sarani's path, the higher middle way.
Now more is
I,
little by little. That's why we all, how to say, practitioners, because we practice. No, but it's great. And wait, I was very interested. You say she doesn't eat food?
she won't eat food that harms any living beings.
Okay, okay, okay.
And if someone approached her and was like even David, her husband,
Yeah.
if they're like in the supermarket and they're like, you didn't get out of my way, they would go to it came from my side and they would walk away.
Uh-huh.
Whereas I would correct the behavior so they don't do it to someone else. I'm very much second school, and that's kind of why I'm here. I I still think things are coming from their own side, and I don't deal with it from it's coming from my side. I just don't do that. So the
Uh-huh.
way they practice is very, very different.
That'll be very interesting. I haven't had so much time to spend real time with them, just a little bit, but not like so very closely to see how they practice or like that. I know them from Diamond Mountain, and I have had some classes, courses with them, but it'll be very interesting to hear what they have to say. Maybe I can try sometime because like also school number 4 is a strong school on Pramana. This is remember when we were studying the two principal ways that we are studying Pramana is by comparing school number 2 with 4. One supported in this case by the books of Kedrubje and Gelsabje, and the other one supported by the books of Dharmakirti.
So
But
for this
anyways, I
for
think
this
what
class, it was non-cow. You said that supported by something else, that blue, that's supported by the non-cow coming from your past deeds, and then that sense of sight in your dream, right? You don't have an object, but you see the blue. It's
yeah,
coming from that non-cow from your past deeds. They're saying it's all from that. That's how they go. But
what's a non cow?
the non-cow, there's a non-cow, the opposite of the cow, and then the non-cow, which is the cow that's in your head that's coming from your past deeds.
Uh-huh.
So they're saying, and mind only says that it's all coming from our past deeds too.
Yeah.
But I found it very challenging to practice that in your day-to-day
Mhm.
life.
I think, well, when you say that you have a hard time seeing how things come from you, they
Yeah.
say that Master Shantideva says like starts with carrots and potatoes. And my idea was in similar line, like just start with things that are very obviously coming from you. And I give you an example, likes and dislikes. Those are to me accessible objects that, okay, I can see why my friend loves whatever strawberry milkshake, and I don't really like it that much. I mean, it's just an example. I do like it, but just to say. And then you can start telling like, oh yeah, I love this movie really much, but this other person doesn't like it that much. Oh, I kind of find this song exciting, or whatever, this book exciting versus this other book that it's boring. And then I don't know if this has happened to you, but sometimes when you were a kid, you will have find a certain movie maybe very entertaining. Then you grow up and the same movie is not that entertaining anymore. Or even the other way around. Sometimes you see something with new eyes and you're like, wow, the first time I see this movie, it didn't make much sense, but now I think it's a great movie. Wow. That to me is a proof that things change and the effect they have on us change depending on how we are changing as well. From there, to me, it's just a little grip where you can start grabbing. Ah, it's true. There is something about me that makes me see reality in different ways. And some days, some things seem more interesting than other things, and other days. From there, you start just practicing with what I will call the kind of carrots and potatoes of, okay, things are coming from me. First, you start with very obvious things. And then, yes, I also have a hard time really understanding how this toilet paper here that I have, because I have a stuffy nose, I blow my nose. But how is it that this thing comes from me? I mean, that's very difficult for me. I can understand labels, but physical objects still is very difficult. But we little by little, we will approach. And I think studying these topics to me, it really helps me because it takes me to more of the fundamental um, parts of existence that includes my senses, for example, and experiences that these senses trigger. If you want, you can call it the consciousnesses. And then little by little, turning apart by little pieces, I think we can open a path that eventually it will be clear for us. But it takes time. My suggestion is just start with very obvious things. Like, I mean, I don't know, whatever you can see very obviously that it depends on your preferences, maybe. Oh, I like this, I don't like this. That we have to argue it's coming from you. No?
Well, I mean, I don't like to see people that work really hard and don't have time to practice, but I'm at work now and I'm on this Zoom and I can practice. And Lama Sarani says in that case, if there's things that you don't like, it makes you practice harder. If you don't want to practice, you think about all those things you don't like and it makes you practice harder. So there's a kind of harshness to that like and dislike too.
Yeah, I think that works. I think that works. Yeah, I don't see. Do you see any contradiction?
There's always two sides to things sometimes. The like and disliking. Sometimes there are sides. And then at some point, there are no two sides anymore. I haven't gotten that far.
We'll hopefully we'll get there. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing and for having the interest. I hope these sessions are helping to gain clarity. I have learned things for sure. So thank you so much for helping me to do this. For me, it has been for sure helpful, useful, and I hope for others as well. And yeah, just again, same thing. If you maybe that's actually would be a great way to plant seeds, all of us. I mean, I was encouraging people to introduce themselves and not very successfully, but now we can encourage people to introduce a topic. So then you guys also have a chance to to share. And if you want to practice teaching content, this can be a good place. So then later you can go and impress teacher Tim Lowenhub. Just kidding, but kind of. Okay, so for now, I think we finish. Links for materials are in the chat. I'll post the Google Drive link again, and suggestions and ideas of something you would like to see happening in these sessions, you can type them in. So thank you very much. Hope you have a great weekend. Tomorrow we have translation class, but Geshe is flying to Japan today. So I think tomorrow is going to be a team class. Geshe may arrive to Japan, I don't know, in the next 20 hours or something. Then I'll keep you posted with more events happening there. Okay. Wishing you very nice weekend and happy holidays. See you soon. Thank you, translators, so much. And recording people. Okay, bye.